Hello and welcome to another video from the Fan Pub. Al back here. Week 7 waiver wire, let's get into it. A few players that you should sort of be targeting for week 7. Right, let's start with the quarterbacks. It's first one's Josh Allen, only owned in 40% of leagues. Had a sneakily good season so far. Ranked 16 in QBs overall. That doesn't sound too impressive. Remember, he's had his bye week. They've got Miami this week, so if he's still there, and there's been a lot of problems with quarterbacks this year. I think Pittsburgh are on the 4th one. They also traded one, so that shows you sort of. But they still managed to win, to be fair. But if Josh Allen's there, I think if you're in a bigger lead, particularly, definitely snap him up. If you've got better options, then obviously don't worry about any of these. But Josh Allen probably the pick of the ones that are sort of less than 50% owned at the moment. Dual threat, as we've said before, can beat you with his legs, can beat you with his arm, and getting better every week. So Buffalo look a pretty good team, strong defense. So you're going to get quite a bit of the ball, hopefully. Daniel Jones for the Giants. They got Arizona. You saw for this week Atlanta put up a load on Arizona. A really good high-scoring game, actually. So, but a pretty good matchup. Daniel Jones again. He's sort of a dual threat. Started pretty well for the Giants. I'm not sure if Saquon will be back, but if he is, or he will be soon, then that will be a boost to him. Position ranked 26 overall. Only owned in the third of leagues, just over. Kirk Cousins started horribly this year, but looked better the last couple of weeks. They've obviously had a bit of a sort of heart-to-heart. You know, Diggs has wanted to leave. He's apologised to Thielen in his live YouTube sort of blog, so just tells you the mindset there might be changing, and Kirk Cousins is certainly airing out the ball. Detroit this week, Cousins is 14 overall, 93 points, and maybe worth a pickup. I think out of these, Cousins and Allen would be the ones I sort of like. Andy Dalton, we all know what Dalton can do. He's not a great option. He's got Jacksonville this week. He's actually 12th ranked QB overall. He's probably a little bit underrated, but I know why. If you watch him, you know why. He can be pretty dreadful at times, but they're pretty decent at times as well. So, if you're desperate, and talking of desperate, Joe Flacco is number 5 on the list, only owned in 2.9% of leagues. And, rightly so. They play the Thursday night game against Kansas City. The Chiefs have been, I think, ran upon. People have looked at that as a way to sort of beat the Chiefs. And it's worked the last 2 weeks. So you basically, they don't seem to be able to stop the run, especially with Chris Jones out for KC. He's a big player in the stopping the run game. You keep Mahomes off the pitch and, it's effective and in 2 ways of moving the ball and keeping Mahomes off the pitch, and that's what you need to do if you're going to beat KC. Philip Lindsay might be a decent player this week, I think. Flacco, maybe not so much, but if you're desperate and you only look at Flacco when you're desperate, then he could be your man. I'd rather have this guy. He's actually got a really good run of games coming up. So him, Bell, and Robbie Anderson, not this week because obviously the Patriots is not a decent game. But they've got a lot of nice games coming up. A lot of poor teams, Miami, etc. coming up. It's a nice run of 4 or 5 games. And the Jets looked a totally different team with Darnold. Crowder has had an amazing amount of catches in Darnold in the 2 games he's played with him. Really, really good PPR numbers. So, if he's around, that stat could actually be quite valuable. Demaryius Thomas also joined the wide receiver ranks, and he's we know he's a pretty decent player. They got Herndon coming back from his hamstring, and of course you got the main man Robbie Anderson, who's a deep threat. And if he can hit him 1 or 2 times a game, then there's your points right there. So, I think, I'll probably go, Allen, Cousins and Darnold have been my top 3 to pick from this list. But if you're looking for a filler for a week, then I wouldn't do Darnold because it's New England and they're the top defense in the league. Just go through the option. Running backs, Devin Singletary, got to be close to be coming back off. He's had a hamstring, ailment that's kept him sidelined for a few weeks. But hopefully with the bye week, he'll be back. He's got Miami this week as well, so he's only owned in half of the leagues, so he's definitely worth a pickup. I think he looks a good player. He's young, and it's a shame about the hamstring because he could have had a sneakily good breakout season, but he still could, I suppose. I mean, it's a long old year, and we're only in week 7, so if you can get him this week and he's fit, then against Miami, then that could be very good points. Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson, we've grouped these two together. They're both owned in about a third of leagues. Malcolm Brown is slightly more. They've got Atlanta. Atlanta are an awful defense as they made Arizona look like world beaters this week. Especially if Gurley's quad injury proves him anymore. He's obviously got the knee injury as well, where he just doesn't look the same player. He's done all right for points because he sort of made it up with touchdowns, but he looks sort of half the player he was. It's a shame, but he's not finished or anything, Gurley, yet. But it's worrying signs if he's down with a different injury, because sometimes you sort of make sort of adjustments to keep the weight off your bad knee, and you get injuries elsewhere. So keep an eye on his quad injury. If he's out, then Brown and Henderson can definitely sort of fill in and do you a decent job, probably. Chase Edmonds, now he has looked really, really good the last few weeks when he's been given a chance. So 2 weeks ago, David Johnson left the game. I think he had back spasms or back injury, or his back seized up, something like that. And Chase Edmonds came in and he looked pretty good. He looks quite dynamic, fast. Definitely worth a stash if you can get him in deeper leagues, I think, because they look like they're going to use him a bit more now. It's hard not to use him because he's looked pretty good when he's got chances. So, and David Johnson did as well, and he gets a bit of a rest with Chase Edmonds in. So obviously you're not going to get mega points off Arizona every week, but if you're desperate, then Chase could be your man. Alexander Mattison, back up to Cook. He gets relief work because they don't want to run Cook into the ground. He's a fabulous player, Cook, and Mattison looks a good change of pace as well. So he's come in and he's getting sort of 4 or 5 points a week, maybe a bit more in PPR. But if anything happens to Cook, and it has the previous 2 years, then he could be a decent ad. Again, Benny Snell, James Conner left the game. They've got a bye this week, so maybe not a lot of people look at him, but Samuels is already out. Well, he was out last week, and Connor left the game as well. So, obviously with a bye week, we don't know if they're going to be back for the week after. And Benny Snell did all right when he came in. Everyone calls him Benny the Snail because he's so slow, but he'll do you a job, I think. Obviously, if he gets chances, he'll do you a job. And the Pittsburgh O-line's pretty good. That's the one good thing you can say about Pittsburgh. And the defence has been all right as well, but Benny Snell, maybe a speculative pickup there. Moving on to New England. Again, who knows what's happening in this backfield. You started off with a bit of Burkhead, and Michelle went missing, and you got a bit of White mixed in. And now it's Brandon Bolden's been mixed in. Even Michelle owners must be like really frustrated with this sort of thing. But that's what you get. We said this, in a lot of our videos. Trying to forecast that New England backfield or even know what they're going to do from week to week, it's impossible. It's really, really is, because they just mix and match so much, and that's the genius of Belichick. But he's not a friend to fantasy owners. Brandon Bolden's been in the mix. Done quite nicely as well. He's actually ranked 45 in standard and 50 in PPR, which is weird, really. You wouldn't think he'd be more of a really deep stash, but they've certainly gotten involved, and he's done all right. Even Brady was running like 2 1-yard QB sneaks. So Michelle owners, it's a frustrating time, I guess. I know he's done all right, but it's frustrating. You think he's going to be the clear number one, and it's just never like that with New England. So, as we said, probably best to avoid it if you can pick up sort of better players. Mark Walton, really very speculative sort of ad in the Miami backfield. He's done okay, but I wouldn't want to own any bit of that, especially against Buffalo. It's going to be so. That is really, really sort of deep dive, desperation. Press the red emergency button, and you're really taking a roll of the dice there. But he's there. He's an option, albeit maybe not a good one. On to the wide receivers, as previously spoke. Robbie Anderson's got some pretty tasty games coming up after this week. And he's a good player when fit. And, and Darnold's fit now as well. They looked a pretty good offense against Dallas. I said before the start of the season they might be a sneakily good offense. Demaryius Thomas, Robbie Anderson, Herndon, Crowder, Lev Bell. There's some quite nice pieces there if Darnold can put it all together. And they did against Dallas, but whether they can keep it up or not is another matter. They suffered with, Luke Falk, obviously. Offenses can just load the box and take out Bell, the best player, and he couldn't really throw Falk. He's actually, I think he was one of the second quarterback ever, or certainly since the early 2001 or something, to be cut after starting the week before. So that's what tells you what they think of Luke Falk. So, he's not even the backup now, so that's weird. Why wouldn't they start whoever the backup was instead of him before that if they were going to cut him? If Darnold being back still doesn't get him on the roster, just seems a bit weird to me. But, that it is what it is. I think Robbie Anderson, owned in 46. I actually picked up a lot of shares of him where people were dropping him because he's a good player. And, you can't hold it against him that Darnold's out. And he's not going to be out forever. And, I just picked up a lot of shares of him. I'd rather, stash him in my 5th or 6th player on the bench. I know if you need that boom or bust play, or, they really do get consistent, then you've got a real player there. People panic sometimes, I think. I get it, but, it's a long old season, the fantasy season. Moving on to Golden Tate. With Evan Ingram out and Sterling Shepard out, Golden Tate was the main beneficiary. Second game back after his suspension. Looked pretty decent. Had a big game. They got Arizona this week. You can see that sort of being repeated. And he's a good, solid player. And he took one to the house, a long catch to the house. He shows he's still got a little bit of speed. And he looked pretty good actually, didn't he? If you got room, then Golden Tate's a good pickup. John Brown, still owned in less than 50% of leagues. Another boom or bust player like Anderson, speed guy, down the field guy. And look who they've got this week, Miami. He's 26th rank in PPR, John Brown. He shouldn't really be on the waivers. I get it in smaller leagues. But none of the leagues 12 and above, 12 teams or above, he should be on the waiver wire. Because he has got an arm, Josh Allen, and John Brown is going to be the main beneficiary of that. Miami. You just look at the opponent. That's all you need to know. Don't drop really good players for him. But if you've got, somebody you can drop, you picked up a second defense if you had a Chicago or Buffalo last week and you picked up pick him up and drop one of them. Because you don't need 2 defenses, right? Ted Ginn. Had a pretty good week last week actually. Bridgewater slowly finding his confidence. Michael Thomas, Ginn. They sort of having sneakily good games again. Bridgewater's putting up some okay numbers, and he's slowly improving every week. And you'd expect that to continue. And then obviously you got Breeze to come back again. He's another stretch the field boom or bust guy. There's some games where he'll have 1 catch or no catches probably, but there's other games where if he gets 3 or 4, they're normally quite big ones, and they can sort of all add up. McCole Hardman obviously seems to be. I mean, him and Demarcus Robinson are sort of fighting out. Well, with Watkins out, they're sort of fighting out for that sort of wide receiver too. I mean, you'd expect Hill to be the main target now he's back, or Kelsey, number 2, and then you'll have Hardman and Robinson fighting out for 3 and 4 while Watkins is out. When Watkins is back, then you'll get the odd big play where they try and throw to him, but other than that, you think his chances would be somewhat limited. On to AJ Brown. They've got the Chargers, who've really been disappointed in the Chargers this year. Lots of injuries, really bad injuries. They seem to get these every year. And AJ Brown, he's another one that's slowly getting more and more production. You don't know about that. The problems are they're a running team. They try and run first with Derrick Henry, and if not, they'll take a few shots to Corey Davis and AJ Brown, I should say. But you don't know who the QB's going to be. Is it going to be Mariota? Is it going to be Tannehill? You also got Delaney Walker in the mix as well, haven't you? So it's a tough one, but you can see he could get better as the year goes on. He's a rookie and he's entitled to improve, but again, we're looking at speculative ads now. Auden Tate, he's filled in the absence of John Ross, who went down, and obviously AJ Green's still out. He's done okay, hasn't he? He looks okay. He certainly, I think he was in I'm right in saying, the Millionaire Maker DraftKings team this week. So him and McLaurin and obviously Stefan Diggs all appeared in it. So he must be doing something right. He's got the size. He's already had the size and scope to be a good wide receiver. And now he's getting a few opportunities to prove if he is going to be a good long-term receiver. So there's certainly lots of rumours about AJ Green being traded to Cincinnati, and that could be the way Ross and the way Tate has stepped up. They've got Erickson as well, who's another speculative ad for down the field catches. Maybe they don't like those enough and they're willing to let AJ Green go, because there's certainly rumours and a few people after AJ Green, and you get the feeling, just a few things that AJ Green said, he's not rushing back because he hasn't got a contract, and it's interesting to see if they'll offer him this contract or whether he'll go elsewhere. But if Green was to go elsewhere, then that makes Auden Tate probably a lot more valuable long term. AJ Green probably as well, unless if he gets the right sort of place. If he went to, I don't know, New England maybe. I don't know. It's possible. When they look for a replacement for Brown. Devontae Parker, again, can you trust him? He's only 1% of leagues, and that tells you why. Tells you all you need to know. I mean, this is a player. He's been frustrating career, hasn't he? Because he's got talent. Well, he looks like he has talent, but he's always injured or there's something going on. Buffalo's a tough matchup. Do you really want to touch many of the Miami's? Fitzmagic came in for Josh Rosen this week for Miami, and he did all right. He nearly pulled it back. And then they say this week I'd expect Josh Rosen to be the man again. So if it's Josh Rosen, then it sort of limits the upside of any receivers, I think. So, although they will have to throw all day. Although I don't think they're even trying to win, so maybe they won't. Darius Slayton, again, a rookie for the Giants, making the most of his opportunity with Shepard and Ingram out. He's had a few nice moments. Could be a good player for the future. Would I trust him yet in my fantasy team? Probably not. But maybe stash him. A bit like you did with McLaurin, probably. A few of you did with McLaurin and DJ Chark. These sort of players who had a good game, and then you're like, well, can they keep this up? And McLaurin and Chark are both having a good year, so. But whether they can keep it up for a full year is another matter. Jerome Brown. Now, this guy, all he does seem to do is catch touchdown passes. You never see him catch the ball anywhere else. He had 2 touchdowns again this week. I think he had something like 5 or 6 touchdowns last year from like 10 passes or something. It was a bit ridiculously low. Don't know what it is about him, but he's definitely a good red zone threat. But I think, again, you're looking at really deep stashes. Right, on to tight ends. Hunter Henry had a massive comeback game. He's the main beneficiary. I don't know what was wrong with Keenan Allen, but him and Mike Williams sort of played second fiddle to Hunter Henry. He was just an absolute beast. 2 touchdowns, lots of yards. He's the player we know he can be, because Hunter Henry is a good player. If he's available in your league, and looks like there's a 50-50 chance he is, go and get him. Especially, people looking for replacements for the sort of injuries that we got this week. Seattle lost their main guy, didn't they? So, again, you might be, Seattle's backup tight end might be useful as well, because their guy's out for the year. Chris Herndon missed the start of the year with he was banned for the substance policy, wasn't he? And he then did his hamstring, so he's probably not too popular with the the Jets management at the moment, but he's a good player. There's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense now, though. So, but if they move the ball a lot more, obviously there's more chances of touchdowns. Noah Fant, it's Denver, not Tennessee. I think that's the typo. He's got Kansas City Chiefs this week. Again, he's a young tight end, entitled to improve. Maybe if Sanders misses time, I don't think he will. The early signs are that Emmanuel Sanders will play, but if he doesn't, then Fant could be a good fill-in for a week. Darren Fells slowly having a bigger role in that Houston offense. Indianapolis this week, that's a tough sort of one, but sometimes in the tougher games, if you can't hit Will Fuller or DeAndre Hopkins, then Fells and Akins are the main sort of tight ends of the beneficiaries. Owned in no leagues, pretty much. So if you're really desperate for a tight end, Fells could be your man. Like I say, I think he's 6'7" or 6'6" or something, and he's a beast. So, although how much they'll use him is anyone's guess. Dawson Knox, again, rookie tight end out of Buffalo, owned in 1% of leagues. So again, you're looking at real sort of speculative ads at this point, but sometimes you have to. Like I say, Will Disley's down for Seattle. It's a real shame because he looked a really good player. Missed most of last year with injury as well, so it's tough. And on to defenses. Packers slowly turning into a pretty decent defense, really. Oakland this week, available in 50% of leagues. Could well be a good play. Chiefs at Denver. Denver don't put up a lot of points, but so there's no sort of real danger of them getting thrashed, and if they can get a few turnovers, obviously KCC look good. Bills probably be my favourite out of the week if you're streaming defenses, because they got Miami, and they're a good defense as well, very very good. Top 10 defense ranked overall, and they've had a bye week, so you're probably looking a bit higher than 10 overall, and against the worst team in football. If Rosen's playing again, I'd like him even more. Go and get them. Falcons against Rams. Rams had a really bad week. Goff let a lot of fantasy players down this week with 1.5 or something points. Also, that killed Cup and a few of the other players that pretty much all of their offense was pretty terrible. I don't like Atlanta though as a defense. I don't think I'd really be rushing to pick them up. I just don't think they're any good. Borne out by the fact that they ranked 31 and 32. So, if you're really desperate, I'd expect the Rams to bounce back against them because they're just not very good. Much rather the Colts. They got Houston though, who pretty good. Went to see Houston when I was on holiday. Got beat by the Panthers. It was a tight game, not a very good game actually. But McCaffrey was the difference really. But they sort of bounced back with wins against KC since then. So a couple of wins since then, and they looked a better team. But a lot of Houston's offense depends on if they can free Will Fuller downfield. And 2 weeks ago, he had a breakout game, and then last week, he could have put up big points. But he dropped a couple of big touchdown passes. So I think Colts are a pretty good defense. So right. So these are your priorities. If you definitely need a tight end, Hunter Henry would be your man. John Brown, obviously we talked about him, the deep threat downfield. Golden Tate, second game back. Especially if Shepard's out, you'd expect him to get a pretty good share of that. The pass catching work against Arizona, who are still sort of missing some of their big players, especially their corners. Devin Singletary, we big supporters of him on this channel. Been held back by injury. If he's back against Miami, though, he's an automatic pickup this week, or even stash to go forward. Chris Herndon, again, we talked about him. I wouldn't pick him. He's not really for this week, but unless you're really desperate. Josh Allen, decent QB, dual threat. Robbie Anderson, big threat downfield. Got some nice games coming up after this week. Packers defense. Chase Edmonds, very worst. He's a handcuff to David Johnson. At best, he seems to be getting more of a share of those backfield snaps and touches. And doing a lot with them when he gets a chance. So, and lastly, Kansas City Chiefs. But I'd say so. Large leagues, it's always tough to get. Why Chase Edmonds is top of this one is because in 16-team leagues, finding any sort of running back at this stage that might do something is really worth it. So that's why him and Madison feature quite highly, and Benny Schnell is in the top 10 as well, because you just need sometimes, especially for bye weeks and injuries, you just need those players to fill in. It's easy to find a wide receiver or a tight end. Golden Tate's been pretty good. Herndon and Fant and Fells are all options at tight end. Sam Darnold, we talked about a really good patch of games he got coming up. Five really good matchups. AJ Brown and Parker. Right. As always, like the video and subscribe. I say I've just come back from America. Went to see 3 games. Really loved my time there in Texas. People were lovely. Obviously, ate too much as you do. But really enjoyed sort of a Texas road trip and seeing a few other things like. So, as always, thanks for watching. Please like the video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Thanks very much for watching. One last thing. I'd just like to say this. We did an injury video for week 7. Just to let you know that our very own Sean, who normally does the Sunday show. A lot of you have been tuning into the fantasy show on a Sunday. Thanks for that. But he's actually on the injury list himself because he actually lost his voice. So that's why there was no show this weekend. Plus we had an early game in the UK anyway. So that's the reason there was no show this weekend. We will be doing a live show. Don't know if it'll be this week, but certainly in the coming weeks. Probably a 2-hour special where we hang out with you guys, talk to you guys about your fantasy teams, about anything really. Your start and sit decisions. That'll likely be a Sunday, probably a couple of hours before the live matches. So, as I say, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.